Hey everybody! In this month's gel press video, I'm going to show you a monochromatic collage. I have another video on a petite collage using 3 colors, and it's a very colorful, fun print with overlapping images. But I wanted to show you that it can be just as interesting in a single color family. So I chose blue for this first one. I have a second one coming that is red. And I have these amazing Stencil Girl stencils that I'm using with some kind of fun overhead city street sort of patterns and geometric patterns. And I'm also adding across each of these some background texture with bubble wrap and with punchinella to give a little circle theme across each one of these prints that's the same. And I'm just lifting through the punchinella with a little bit of deli paper and using another one of the Stencil Girl stencils that's more organic, just for a little bit of contrast. Now, the key to making this print kind of charming when you look at the whole thing overall is to alternate your warm and cool colors. So I have assembled all of the golden open blues that I own. I pulled them all out and I'm using all of them. And some of them are a little bit more on the greenish side, and then some have a little bit more red in them. And that's helping me have a lot of variety, even though I'm just using one color family. So I think that's really fun. You'll see the same thing next month when I do the red version. And you'll want to be sort of deliberate about which color goes where. So as I'm looking at this and I'm kind of cycling through my colors, I'm trying to pay attention to which one's cool, which one's warm, which one I've already used, so that I don't trap myself in a corner of this print where I have the same color next to other squares of the same color. Now with the square petite, this type of collage, or I call it quilting, like gel press quilting, is very easy because this is an easy shape to line up and have it be very precise. If there's a little bit of overlap, that's completely fine. You don't even notice it with all the straight lines. And my next month's video will be with the triangle. So I will have used the circle, the triangle, and the square for all of these. Now your brayer cleaning sheet is beautiful when you do these monochromatic prints. So I'll link you to a video here where I use the one from the red video that's coming next month, and I use the brayer cleaning sheet to create those little valentines that I made. That's a very fun way to do it. Now, since the stencils stick to the plate, I'm creating a little structure that has some white in it with the stencil stuck down, and then I'm also using the ghost print from that. But I don't want white space in my final print. And since that's one of my heavier, darker colors, I'm going to put a lighter color on and stamp it on top of that image with the white space just to fill in that white space. And that design will be preserved because that is so much a darker color. So I lifted a little bit with bubble paper for a little more added texture in that open spot. And you can see what I mean. You can still see all the details from that sort of organic stencil, and that's really super fun. Now, the other thing that you'll want to pay attention to as you're doing this design is not putting the same type of image next to an image that you just printed. So for example, in the center there, I have that bubble wrap. And then I have an organic one down to the right. So I'm going to use a geometric one to fill in the space in between, taking care to make sure I don't have that light ultramarine color next to another square of that light ultramarine color. But I love how the bubble wrap and the punchinella in the background sort of tie all of the squares together, even though I'm using different images on the stencil for the majority of each of these little squares. Now, the opacity and transparency of the paint will give each square a different look as well. So you can see with the ultramarine blue, the phthalo blue-green shade, those are very transparent. So those squares have a really different look to them than the ultramarine light, which is a very opaque color. And so even with those two squares next to each other, they have a completely different feel because of that. And they react with the white of the paper in a different way. Now, this is a fun little stencil in a lot of ways because each one of these little vignettes on the stencil is completely different, but it's also sized perfectly for the petites. So it's a stencil that seems like it was made for this petite collage. That's not what I got it with the intention of doing. I just noticed that it would be a really handy single stencil to create all of these different things with using one of the petite plates. When I first created that first petite collage, which I'll link you to that again with the circles, I overlapped those and I was using a very transparent acrylic ink. And it was one of my favorite prints that I'd ever done, but I wanted to show in my Facebook Lives that a single color can be just as interesting as long as you have these other things like texture and this interesting stencil, and as long as you're sort of mindful about where the colors go. So I will head back to the ultramarine. This is such a bright, beautiful blue. And there are several other colors of blue in this line that I don't have that my sister has, and they're stunning. The phthalo blue red shade is really pretty if you want even a warmer blue. And there's another blue that she uses a lot in her gel prints that I can't think of the name of, but it's a really vibrant, pretty printing blue. Now, if you leave a little white space in between the squares, just kind of go back with the edge of your petite and you'll cover that right up. With very few exceptions, I didn't want a lot of white space on here. I really wanted it to look like a printed quilt. So I will be having a workshop on what to do with all of those gel press prints that you make very, very soon. And this will be one of the prints that I will show a project with in the class. And I also have lots of brayer cleaning sheets sitting around from sessions just like this where I just couldn't bear to throw them away. Now this one has like a circuit board look, which is very, very fun. So I'm going to press that down and lift it up. And I love the way this looks. Each one of these squares is completely different and there's so much interest in just a single color family. So pick the right stencil, pick the right texture tool, and you will have a gorgeous, gorgeous print to do something really, really fun with. So here it is with a little better lighting. Head over to my blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.